42 years have passed since the day I watched my younger brother's casket lowered into the earth, but last week, a phone call shattered my reality and undid a lifetime of grief. His name was Thomas, though to everyone who loved him, he was simply Tommy. He was only 19 years old when the charter bus he was riding plummeted off a treacherous stretch of I-70 in the Colorado Rockies during a blinding blizzard in 1983. The authorities reported that 17 passengers perished in the frozen wreckage that night, and they told us Tommy was among the dead. I was the one who had to walk into the morgue in Denver to identify his remains. I was just 23, burdened with the impossible task of telling our mother that her baby boy was never coming home. But last Tuesday, the silence of my bedroom was broken by ringing at 2 a.m. The glowing screen displayed a number I didn't know, but the area code was 303 Denver. I almost let it go to voicemail. By the time you reach 65, you understand that calls in the dead of night rarely bring good news. Yet a strange intuition forced my hand toward the nightstand. Perhaps it was the same brotherly sixth sense that used to wake me whenever Tommy suffered from night terrors as a child. I accepted the call. "David, is that you, David?" A voice rasped. I bolted upright, my heart hammering against my chest. The speaker sounded hesitant, like a man who hadn't used his voice for a conversation in decades. Yet beneath the gravelly tone, there was a familiar cadence that made the blood freeze in my veins. "Who is this?" I demanded. Only ragged, heavy breathing answered me at first. "It's me," the stranger finally whispered. "It's Tommy." The device slipped from my grip. My hands trembled so violently I struggled to retrieve it from the carpet. When I finally pressed the phone back to my ear, the line was still live. I could hear the shallow rhythm of his breath. "This isn't a joke," I stammered, my voice fracturing. "Whoever this is, you're sick. My brother has been dead for 42 years. "I know," the voice replied. "I know how much time has passed. I only recently pieced together who I am. I discovered something. An old article about a bus accident." He paused and the silence was deafening. "There's a photograph of me, David, but the caption reads Thomas Carr. That is me, isn't it? I am Thomas Carr." Air refused to enter my lungs. The bedroom began to tilt. "Where are you?" I managed to choke out. I'm not entirely sure. People call this area the downtown district. I think I've been here for a very long time. I believe I sleep at a Mission on Lawrence Street, but I can't recall. I don't remember how I arrived here. My memory is blank before, maybe 15 years ago. I just remember waking up in a trauma ward, and they told me I was found on the pavement with no identification, unable to speak my own name. My thoughts spiraled into chaos. This couldn't be happening. It had to be a cruel scheme, someone who had dug up Tommy's records to torment me for money. "What do you remember?" I asked, setting a trap. "Nothing distinct, mostly just sensations. Sometimes I have nightmares about ice, about shivering uncontrollably, and the sound of people screaming. And occasionally, I dream about a house with a bright blue front door, and someone who made blueberry pancakes." Tears welled up instantly, hot and stinging, because I knew that house. I remembered that blue door vividly, and I remembered Mom flipping those pancakes every single Sunday morning without exception. Tommy always devoured a double portion. "What do you look like?" I whispered, terrified of the answer. "Old," he admitted, and a profound sorrow saturated his words. "Truly old. My face is, I don't know how to put it, ruined, I suppose. I've lived hard, but I saw the photo in that paper from the crash. Even though it's from 42 years ago, I recognize it. I see myself in that boy. We have the same eyes." Tommy had a scar, I interrupted, testing him one last time, on his left forearm, from a bicycle wreck when he was 7. 12 stitches. The line went silent for a long time. "I have a scar on my left arm," he finally said. "It's faded, ancient. I never knew where I got it." I broke down then, weeping with a ferocity I hadn't felt since the funeral. "Give me the address," I commanded. "I am coming to get you." "I don't think you should," he murmured. I'm not the man you remember. I don't recall being him. I'm a ghost who has been haunting these streets longer than I can track. I likely smell terrible. I probably look frightening. I only called because I thought someone deserved to know that maybe I didn't die in that wreckage. That perhaps there was an error. "Tell me where you are," I said, my voice hardening. "Right now." He recited the address of a homeless shelter in downtown Denver. I scribbled it on a notepad with unsteady fingers. It was a 7-hour trek from my home in Utah to Denver, even longer if the mountain passes were slick. I checked the digital clock, 2:15 a.m. "Stay put," I ordered. "Do not go anywhere. I am leaving this second. I will be there by noon. Do you hear me? Don't leave." "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, David, I'll wait." The connection severed. I sat paralyzed in the gloom of my room for half a minute, trying to comprehend the impossible. Then adrenaline took over. I threw on clothes, snatched my wallet and keys. My wife, Sarah, shifted under the duvet. "David, what's the matter?" "I have to drive to Denver," I said, hearing how detached my voice sounded. "Now it's 2 a.m. David, what happened?" I stared at her. "How do you explain to your wife of 38 years that the brother you buried 4 decades ago just telephoned you?" "I'll explain later," I promised. "I have to go." "I'm sorry." I was inside my truck before she could protest further. The journey to Denver was the most agonizing 7 hours of my existence. I left the radio off. I couldn't tolerate the distraction. My brain cycled through scenarios, oscillating between hope and horror. A logical part of me insisted this was a malicious hoax, that I would arrive to find a con artist who had researched Tommy's history. But the other part of me, the part that never truly accepted my little brother, was screaming that it was true. I thought back to that freezing day in the morgue. I was 23, barely an adult, when they pulled back the sheet to reveal a face battered and swollen from impact. The body had lain in the snow for 12 hours before recovery. There was a deep laceration on the forehead, bruising masking the features. But I had looked at the jawline, the hair color, the frame of the torso, and I had nodded. "Yes," I had said. "That is my brother. That is Thomas Carr." What if I had been mistaken? The question made nausea rise in my throat. If I was wrong, then Tommy had been alive this entire time. Alive and in agony, alone, stripped of his identity. While I moved forward, marrying Sarah, raising children, building a legacy, celebrating holidays, he was out there. While Mom passed away 10 years ago, heartbroken for her lost boy, he was shivering in a doorway. I slammed my foot down on the gas pedal. I hit the outskirts of Denver at 11:30 a.m. The area near the shelter was as grim as I anticipated. Boarded windows, figures slumped in alleyways, debris scattering the sidewalk. This was my brother's home. I located the mission on Lawrence Street. It was a squat concrete structure that looked weary. The entrance was unlocked. The air inside reeked of industrial, bleach fighting a losing battle. Against the odor of too many people in a confined space, a woman sat behind a plexiglass partition. She glanced up as I entered. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for a man," I said. "His name is..." Well, he might not know his name, but he called me. He said he stays here. He would have used a phone around 2:00 a.m. She assessed me for a beat, then nodded. "Tommy." "Yeah, I recall." He was agitated. Begged to use the office line. Said it was life or death. He's a gentle soul. Tommy has been drifting in and out for 8 years. Keeps his head down. "Is he here?" "Check the recreation room. Through those doors." She pointed left. I moved toward the door, my heart thudding so violently I feared I might collapse. The common area was a cavernous room with mismatched furniture and a TV muttering in the corner. A dozen people were scattered about, eyeing me with suspicion as I walked in. Then I saw him. He was seated alone at a formica table by the window, facing away from me. I saw gray hair, longer than Tommy ever wore it, tied back. He wore a tattered flannel shirt, his posture hunched as if trying to disappear. I approached slowly. My legs felt disconnected from my body. "Tommy," I choked out. He turned. The face that met mine was a stranger's face. This man was eroded by time. Deep canyons carved around his eyes and mouth. His skin held the leathery texture of a life spent exposed to the elements. A scar I didn't recognize slashed across his cheek. He looked 70, not 61. But the eyes... God, the eyes were identical. Amber brown with gold flecks, exactly like our father's, exactly like Tommy's. "David," he rasped, his voice breaking. I couldn't form words. I just stared at this phantom from 1983. He stood up gingerly, as if every joint ached. He was thinner than Tommy and shorter, though gravity and malnutrition could explain that. But when he met my gaze, an expression crossed his face that stole my breath. "You came," he whispered. "I wasn't sure you would." "Show me the arm," I blurted out, my tone harsh and desperate. "The left one." He paused, then slowly rolled up the flannel sleeve. There, etched into the pale skin of his forearm, was a scar, old, white but undeniable, 4 inches long in the exact spot Tommy had cut himself. My knees gave out. I gripped the table edge to stay upright. "I need to sit," I gasped. He slid a chair toward me and I fell into it. He sat opposite me, watching me with the wariness of a stray animal ready to run. "Tell me about the accident," I said. "What do you recall?" "I don't remember the impact," he said softly. "But the nightmares, they're always the same. I'm on the bus. Snow is falling. The driver is fighting the wheel, but we are sliding. Then screams in the cold. A cold so deep I think it will kill me. Then nothing. Just blackness for years." He rubbed his face with calloused palms. "The next clear memory is waking up in that hospital. A nurse said I was brought in from an alley, unconscious. Said I'd been mugged. But I didn't remember the mugging. I didn't remember anything. Not my name. Not my home, nothing. They kept me for 3 days, ran scans, but found nothing physically wrong except old trauma. Brain injury, they guessed. From years prior." "What year was that?" I asked. 2010, he replied. "February, I believe. I didn't even know the date." I had to ask. My mind raced. 2010, that was 15 years after the crash. Where had he been for the missing decades? And before 2010? I pressed. "You have zero memory?" "Flashes," he said. "Shards that don't fit together. Being cold. Sleeping in the mountains. I recall working with my hands. Construction, maybe. Getting paid under the table. But it's like trying to recall a movie you saw once." He looked at his hands, scarred, rough, the hands of a laborer. "For a long time I stopped trying to remember," he confessed. "I just survived. Found warmth where I could. There are holes in my memory, even recently. Sometimes weeks vanish." "When did you start digging?" I asked. 6 months ago, a volunteer here was sorting old newspapers for recycling. She held up one from January 1983 and made a comment about it being 40 years old. That date, it struck a chord. It felt significant. He reached into his pocket and produced a fragile, yellowed clipping. He unfolded it as if it were holy scripture and slid it toward me. It was the front page, 17 dead in Rockies disaster, and there, in the grid of victims, was Tommy's high school graduation photo, the one Mom had supplied to the press. "I stared at that picture for hours," he said. "I knew that face. Not from a mirror, I don't look like him now, but from inside. And the name, Thomas Carr, I repeated it, Thomas, Tommy, it felt like home." I stared at the clipping, at my brother's youthful smile beaming at me from the grave. "I went to the library," he continued. "Found the obituary, found the list of survivors' kin. Your name was there, David Carr, and a city in Utah. It took me 3 months to build the nerve to dial. I didn't know if you'd still be there. I didn't know if you'd believe me." "I'm not sure I do," I said, the words harsher than intended. "Because if you are Tommy, then I buried the wrong person. I told Mom her son was dead. Do you grasp the weight of that?" He flinched but nodded. "I'm sorry. I can't imagine your pain. Mom is gone," I said, my voice cracking. "She died 10 years ago. She lived 32 years thinking you were dead. She never healed. And if you are him, she died never knowing." Tears spilled down my cheeks. Across the table, the old man, Tommy, perhaps was weeping too, silent tracks cutting through the grime on his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered again. We sat in that bleak room, 2 elderly men crying while the world ignored us. Finally, I wiped my eyes. "DNA," I said. "We need a test. It's the only proof." He nodded. "Yes, I need to know too." I pulled out my smartphone. A private lab in downtown Denver offered expedited sibling testing. Expensive, but they promised results in 48 hours. I booked a slot for 3 p.m. "Let's go," I said, rising. "Let's settle this." He stood stiff and slow. Walking out, I realized how small he seemed. Tommy was nearly my height. This man was 3 inches shorter, but years of sleeping on concrete compresses the spine. The drive to the lab was silent. I stole glances at him, searching for my brother in the profile of this weathered stranger. Sometimes I saw it, the curve of an ear, a nervous tick with his thumb. Other times he was a ghost. The test was clinical. Cheek swabs, forms, credit cards. They promised a call in 2 days. Outside reality hit me. "Where will you sleep tonight?" I asked. "The shelter," he shrugged. "Same as always." I looked at him, shivering in his thin coat, shoes held together by tape. I couldn't do it. "No," I said. "I'm getting a hotel. You're coming with me." You don't have to. I know, get in. I found a suite near the park. The concierge eyed us suspiciously, me in my clean jacket. Him looking like a vagrant, but I paid cash. Upstairs, I ordered pizza while he showered. He stayed in the bathroom for 45 minutes. When he emerged, clean-shaven and hair slicked back, the resemblance hit me like a hammer, the jawline. It was Tommy's jaw. We ate in silence. Finally, he spoke. Thank you for this, for risking believing me. I haven't decided yet, I said honestly, but I need to know. He nodded. Can I ask, what was I like before? The question winded me. I leaned back. You were good, I said. Kind, you brought home injured animals. You wanted to be a vet. You were starting college that September. Tears filled his eyes again. You were funny, I added. You could always make Mom laugh. And brave. When Dad left, you were the one who told me we'd be okay. I wish I could remember, he whispered. I wish I knew that boy. Maybe it will come back, I said, though I doubted it. That night, I listened to his breathing from the other bed. Steady, safe. I texted Sarah. I'm okay. I'll explain when I'm home. She replied, I love you, be safe. The next day dragged. We ate breakfast at a diner. I watched him devour eggs like a starving man. We walked around the city park. He told me about the streets, the cold, the violence he'd survived. The feeling of being permanently lost. I always felt like I was waiting, he said, staring at the lake. Like I had somewhere to be, but the map was missing. Thursday, 2:30 p.m., the phone rang. We were in the hotel room, packed and ready to leave. I answered. Hello, Mr. Carr? This is the genetic lab? My hand shook. Across the room, Tommy watched me, eyes wide. Yes, I said. This is David. The results are conclusive. The probability of full siblingship is 99.97%. Mr. Carr, you are biological brothers. The room spun. I sat heavily on the mattress. Are you sure? I whispered. 100% sure, sir. Would you like the full report emailed? Yes, I said, please send it to my email address.